a very interesting documentary by Jennifer Peedom, and it's, with this year we had Everest, which was sort of a reconstruction of the mountains of tragedy on Everest, which very much sort of concentrated on the tourists and the guides. In the case of Sherpa, it's a documentary which, when they started making it, was about the increasingly strained relationships between the indigenous guides and the tour companies and the tourists who climb Everest. Because the fact is that the guides are paid much less than anybody else. They take much greater risks. In 2013, there was a brawl between them and tourists who they felt were being disrespectful. In 2014, when they were there filming, at which point the Sherpa leader was about to become the first person to ever summit Everest 22 times. There was a terrible tragedy. 16 people were killed. And in the wake of that, what happens is that the guides decide to strike. And what the documentary team suddenly find themselves in the middle of is a sort of defining moment in which people who have really been treated in a way which doesn't in any way recognize the huge risk, the huge efforts that they are making, suddenly go, okay, we're going to draw a line. And what then happens is that relationships between the climbers, and between the climbing companies become increasingly fractious as everybody attempts to sort of pass around blame. One of the things that's fascinating about the film is that, firstly, I mean, it's very well made. It's made absolutely from ground level, and it's a film made by somebody who understands the area, understands the subject, knows what they're doing. Furbatashi, who is the Sherpa, who is the Sherpa leader on whom the original documentary was going to focus, presents a sort of very, very interesting and dignified air, talking about what his profession is, what it is that he does, how his family feel about it. And then as this terrible situation starts to unfold, we see the sort of the typical idea of the guides as basically being, subservient, being completely overturned. And it becomes a film about workers taking control of the workplace. And and as that happens, there are some things that are said by some of the tourists which are really jaw-dropping, saying that what they're doing is bullying. One person even uses the word terrorism, which is just unbelievable. And it becomes a very, very interesting and compassionate look at people working in the most dangerous service industry in the world and coming together in the wake of an appalling event to say, okay, we are now standing together to demand some form of change. I thought it was a very interesting documentary.